We'll change tack a bit and talk about the market. It's been a very eventful year so far. To start with, in 2020, some positive vibes from the Nigerian stock market, and that's where Victor Chiazo, who is the head of research at FSL Securities, is joining us live this morning from the trading floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to put some of this in an analyst squawk box for us, to give us his thoughts about some of these and how do we understand some of the news that we have, with a bit of an outlook on the earnings that we're looking forward to within the quarter. Victor, good morning. Welcome.
Morning, Boston.
Great to have you here. We started the year on a on a big rally, on a big note, but again, a couple of corporate news seem to have contributed to this big show that we saw on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Give me some of your thoughts about what we've heard so far. I'm sure you have the Access Bank story last week as part of the big story, the approval from the Central Bank of Nigeria to step into Cameroon, and the approval by the Central Bank of Kenya to open a new, to acquire Transnational Bank, 100% equity acquisition in East Africa.
Yeah, Boston, the equities market has been off to a great start for the year 2020, as against most of the other years that we've seen the market report negative returns for the first week of the new year. But for 2020, we've been fortunate enough to see the market return some positive numbers, and we're happy that this will actually send good news to the market and hopefully bring more investors. With regard to the news in the market regarding Access Bank's expansion into other African countries and going into Kenya and going into Cameroon, I think for a bank like Access Bank that said they want to be the biggest bank in Africa and they want the bank to be the gateway, Africa's gateway to the world, I think this is more or less the right step in the right direction, because aside from the likes of UBN, which we all know is the market leader in that space, which has close to about 20 branches scattered across Africa, I think with Access Bank going into trying to spread its wings and going into acquiring Transnational Bank in Kenya and also looking at setting up a subsidiary in Cameroon, I think this is just the beginning. I expect to see more in the near future as they want to actually get to that stage where they can become Africa's gateway to the world. And to achieve that, you need a presence, some form of presence in almost each African country here. So I think now this is a strategy to actually achieve that, and I believe that as time goes on, I begin to see the bank also give us news that will actually expand that process.
Are you, well, let me just rephrase that. I'm sure you analysts also watch a few other developments in the marketplace. We're starting the new year, and here is a Flour Mills rolling out a 50 billion naira 2 series bond, and Union Bank announcing series 3 and 4 of a 20 billion naira commercial paper. Put together, that's about 70 billion naira on the street already. Lagos State is just concluding 100 billion naira infrastructure bond offering. You have the NIDF also on the street. So you think we're kicking off now? We're close to 200 billion, north of that, on the debt market through Lagos State corporates. You think this is also chasing the big money, even though we've seen yield curve are trending or get a bit more sluggish since last year? Yes, Victor, I was asking about the debt market. Lagos is just concluding its 100 billion infrastructure bond. Then you have the Flour Mills doing 50 billion 2 papers, and Union Bank on Friday announcing that its 20 billion commercial paper series 3 and 4 will close tomorrow, Tuesday the 21st. You think this is a good way to start the fixed income? All these guys coming through despite the yield curve getting a little bit soft since last year.
Yeah, Boston, I think this is quite the time to actually come out with whatever tier 2 capital you need to actually drive your business. Because if you look at the yield environment, as we all know, it has actually been heading downward since the middle of last year. And we've seen rates drop across board for all the tenors. So even the long term for the 1 year, I'm talking about the Treasury bill, the longest tenor, which is 364 days, is going about 5.5% for a year. So we've seen yields and we've seen rates drop across the board. And so I think most of these companies that are looking at raising tier 2 capital to actually fund their operations, I think now is the time, because nobody can really tell how long these rates are going to remain at this single digit and more or less at this low level. So I think they're just taking that opportunity, raise debts that won't be harmful to their operations, and actually repay these debts over time without it affecting their profits. If you observe, most of the banks as well, for most of them, they recall their Eurobond offerings. So we also expect new offerings in that space for most of the banks, and we expect it to be done at more or less significantly lower rates. For the banks, we have just a few other banks that also have their bonds available. I expect most of those bonds, for them, I think they might actually recall those bonds and actually issue new ones at lower rates. That will actually impact their balance sheet and their income statement positively, because you expect your interest expense to actually reduce as you pay out lower rates. So I think it's a good one for the companies, it's a good one for the banks, and I think they will actually benefit in terms of top and bottom line performance in the coming years.
And it's also a good one, would you say, for MTN Nigeria getting the resolution of its alleged debt indebtedness to the Nigerian authorities via the office of the AGF. That stock has been jumping since that news came through. With the way things are going, do you see this as a curtain raiser? Perhaps MTN Nigeria would eventually do that much talked about IPO in the current year?
Well, I think it might be too early in the year to talk about the IPO. I think MTN might really just want to watch the market for now and see how investors actually treat the stocks on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It started after the initial listing by introduction. It started off pretty well before we saw the price tank, and it hasn't recovered since then. But with the recent news of the drop in the charges on MTN, we saw that spike, and we saw it go back from about 109 back to 124, 126. So I think for the management of MTN, they will keep watching, and I believe when the time is right, they'll actually come to the market for the IPO. But I don't see it happening between the first and second quarter of this year. Probably in the third quarter, fourth quarter, we might begin to see some news regarding the IPO from that company. So I think overall, I think the market we're going to benefit from the lower yield environment, because if you look at what's been happening across board, except you're going for the 30-year bond instrument or the 20-year bond instrument, you might not see any instrument that gives you as high as 10% stock rates in the market, except you're a foreign investor. So I think for the domestic players, the equities market is actually where to be, because if you look at dividend yields across board, almost 30 to 35% of the companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange give you dividend yields above 5%. So what's the incentive to stay in the fixed income market when I can get good returns in the equities market in terms of dividend yield aside capital appreciation? So I think overall, the equities market is actually here to benefit from what is happening in and around the market space.
How long, Victor, do you think this game change from debt market to equity, how long do you think it will last? Is it sustainable, in your view?
Well, I remember, like I said, people go to places where return is highest. So I believe the longer returns in the equities market is higher than what is obtainable from the fixed income space, we would continue to see that flow to the equities market. Aside that, you also realize that the economy is also in a state of recovery. And once the economy continues to boom and people disposable income continues to increase, we might continue to see more people come back into the equities market. And Bosun, if you really look back, the truth is good news sells. So we just need to sustain the trend. Once you see the market gaining continuously, people will be interested in coming to the market. But a very key and important factor is the MPC. What they do and how the CBN decides to maintain the rates would actually have a significant impact on our market. The longer the CBN can hold status quo with what's happening, foreign investors and the banks being given access to the OMO auction, while local players can play in the treasury bill space, which both markets offering different rates. I think that might actually be where the equities market will be able to benefit. But once there's a turnaround in that space, we might actually see a reversal of funds. So we will continue to watch the CBN's body language with regards to his stance on these two windows and two different rates he's offering to the market.
Victor Chazo from FSL Securities, thank you very much, the head of research. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the week. We appreciate your time. The UK Africa Investment Summit is taking place. It's a big story as the UK stands at the threshold of Brexit on January 31st. This is going to be the final big meeting between UK and Africa before the Brexit date. But who is making a show at the London event? We'll go to London after the break.